Hey guys, and welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia, and I'm coming to you as always from the south of Germany. Today is Saturday, the 28th of September 2019, and I'm just so happy to be talking to you. Thank you so much for joining in. If you're a new viewer, I hope that you will enjoy this knitting podcast. And if you're coming back, you know what you're into. This is going to be one of those episodes full of stuff. I have a ton of projects to share with you, both finished objects and works in progress. I will talk to you about a little bit of spinning if I don't forget. And yeah, we have a book to talk about, and we will just see how it goes. I'm filming this on a beautiful autumnal day. We just came back from brunch and grocery shopping and all those fun things that you do on a Saturday morning. And I really want to get outside and do some running as soon as we finish. So I'm trying to keep this kind of short and snappy. We'll see how it goes because I have a ton of stuff to show you. As usual, I don't do show notes, but I keep pretty good Ravelry project pages. So I will always link those right underneath the video. And you will be able to find all the information regarding yarn, needle size, colorways, and all of those things there. So don't worry, just check those pages if you have any questions. So let's jump right in, and I do have two finished objects. First of all, I finished the socks for my father-in-law. I just really like these. They make me so happy because I know that he will love them. This is a pair of vanilla latte socks, which is a free pattern on Ravelry, which I just keep using all over again because it's just a little bit of fun. I'm not really doing it in this case to showcase the actual pattern. It's just a fun little thing to do to avoid just knitting stockinette in the round for ages and ages and ages. And I think it makes them a tiny bit more stretchy, which is good for gift socks because then they are just the chance of them fitting perfectly is just a little bit higher. So this yarn is West Yorkshire Spinners in their blue tit colorway. This is the ball band if you're interested, and it's kind of crinkly. But this is it. I really like this yarn. It's not super soft, but it's just one of those really good workhorse yarns, and I like using it for gifts. I also have a pair of socks out of this yarn that I wear quite a lot, and yeah, it's just a fun self-patterning yarn. So these are done. I did, what did I do? I think I did 64 stitches on a US size 1 2.25 millimeter needle. Knit these cuff down with a fish lips kiss heel, which doesn't look like it fits, but that's just because my sock blocker doesn't have the right size for my father-in-law's feet. So they should be fine, and I'm really happy with them. They're pretty much matchy-matchy, but I didn't match them completely at the end. But it'll be fine. I don't think he will notice, and I'm just happy to have one Christmas gift done. And yes, I mentioned the C word, sacrilege, I know. I'm just one of these people who are really excited for Christmas and anything to do with that. So it doesn't scare me the way it usually scares people. So sorry if you're not in the Christmas spirit yet. I completely get it. You don't have to do Christmas knitting. This is just what I do. So yeah, they are done, and well, you remember last week when I told you this was the only pair of socks that I had on the needles? Well, actually I was lying because I kept forgetting another pair of socks that I kind of started and then had lingering for quite a while, and I think, I don't know, maybe I wanted to forget about them, but I realized that they exist, and I actually was lying to you, not on purpose. But I found this other pair of socks that I have been working on and then kind of not working on for quite a while. And you know what, you guys, I just finished it. So you may remember this if you've been watching for a couple of weeks or months. I think I started this just in the beginning of August. Or was it July? It was a while ago. And again, it looks like it doesn't fit on these blockers, but it really does. I'm not sure what's going on with my blockers. This is a pair of socks that I knit. I'm not sure if it's going to be for myself or for gifts. This I knit a 1x1 rib for the cuff, and then a 3x1 rib across the sock, which you may be able to tell here. So again, at the moment, I'm just really enjoying mixing it up a tiny bit and doing little ribbed patterns on my socks. And the yarn for this, I will be very honest with you, this was given to me by the dyer. Where's my voice going? I don't know. Did I bring something to drink? No. This is by Mad Fussy Yarns. And she sent that to me quite a while ago just to play with, and I finally got around to knitting a pair of socks out of it. This is the colorway Apta Camp sock set, and it's in her East Frisian wool, which I believe is very local to her, and it's a wool from milk sheep, which is really interesting. So if you're interested, just she has an Etsy store and Instagram and all of that, so just check that out. I just want to be honest with you, when I receive stuff for free, I will always tell you. Anyways, so I finally knit with it after having it in my stash for way too long, and it was really interesting. It's a very different yarn. I think it's a 2-ply. And it's a very, I would say, crisp yarn. I can't really explain it well. I felt like it was a little bit harder on my hands to knit with, but it's a really, really cool yarn at the same time. So it's very different from your usual sock yarns that you get anywhere. It's got a tiny bit of a halo, and this base also has Firestar nylon in it. No, Starfire nylon? I'm not sure. So it's not really sparkly. It's more like it has a shimmer to it, which I think is quite interesting. So yeah, I finally finished these, and I'm just so happy to have them done. And like I said, I will decide whether these will be for me, for a gift, or whether I will donate them, because I've been donating quite a couple of socks at the moment, or lately I should say. But at least they're done, and I'm so happy to have these off the needles. So that's it for my works in progress. No, that's wrong. That's it for my finished objects, and now we will move into my works in progress. And I have a mountain of stuff right next to me. I'm not sure how that happened. Well, it probably has to do with the fact that I've just been knitting here and there on pretty much everything and anything. And yeah, so let's talk about it. First of all, let's show you a project that I haven't shown you in a while in my upside down flamingo bag, which I still love, especially because it has the right side up flamingos as well. In here is my hand spun sweater that I've been working on for ages, but I'm not really working on it very continuously. This is the Avalanche Sweater, which is a beautiful pattern. I believe it's by Heidi Kirnmeier. And it's essentially a top-down sweater that has a really fun sort of lace and cable motif on the front. So the rest of the sweater is just plain stockinette, and then you have this one panel at the front, and I just think it's a really, really pretty sweater. So this is where I'm about, I don't know, maybe 4 inches away from finishing the body. I always feel like it looks very big and very long, and I'm almost done, but every time I try it on, I have quite a way to go. But I picked it up and did a couple of rounds this last week. And the yarn that I'm using for this is my hand spun first woolen spun sweater quantity of yarn. So this is the yarn that I spun. This is from a German sheep breed called Coburger Fuchsschaf. And I spun this into a woolen prep woolen spun 2-ply. And because my yarn is not super consistent, I'm constantly alternating 2 skeins to get a somewhat consistent fabric in my sweater. Again, I'm working with hand spun. I always feel like it's a little bit tougher on my hands, and also this is just knit on a bigger gauge, and I just like knitting on a small gauge if I can. It just feels easier to me for my wrists and so on. So I'm not working on it super hard, but I'm working on it every now and then, and I do really like how it's coming out. I think the woolen yarn, it has a bit of a halo to it, and it's just very forgiving. So the stitch definition it's there, but it's not super strong. But for this kind of project, I really, really like it. I think this is going to be one of those sweaters that I will take for hiking in really deep winter. I've even thought about leaving it at the holiday place where we go to a lot in the Alps and just have it there. So this is not going to be like an everyday work sweater, but more something for very, very cold days. And yeah, this makes me very happy. It's not a soft sweater. The yarn is, I like it. It's very woolly, but I know that a lot of people would probably think this is like sandpaper. But yeah, I really like it. It's very sheepy. It's very natural. As you can see, I spun from the natural fiber, so it hasn't been dyed. And it has just that kind of look and feel to it, like sheep to sweater sort of project. So that's that. I'd really like to finish the body at some point soon. Like I said, I'm not in a huge rush for it. I'm not going to force myself to work on this, but yeah, I can finish it. It's definitely doable, and I would like to have it finished for winter. We're going away next weekend, so maybe I'll take it with me. I have to see and think about that one. Next up, let's talk about another sweater. Last week I showed you my project for the Hohi Fall cowl, which I'm participating in. It's a knit along for the patterns of Hohi Locatelli. And I'm knitting my sweater out of a yarn that I got in Norway. So if you haven't seen, I think it was the second to last episode, I showed you all my things that I got in Norway at the Oslo Strikker Festival and just generally in and around Oslo. And I got a sweater quantity of Solje by Hillesvåg, colorway 2136. To knit the Ernest Cardigan by Hohi Locatelli, and I've made quite a bit of progress on it. So let me show this to you. So you start by knitting like this sort of shawl collar, and then you pick up and start knitting down, and I'm not sure if you can tell, but by now I have separated for the sleeves, and now I'm just knitting down the body of my cardigan. And how pretty is that? I still really, really like this. I tried it on the other day, and it's kind of on the smaller side. So I will have to put this on a bigger cable needle and try again. I think it should be fine. I think it was just the fact that everything was quite scrunched up on the needles, and I'm just only maybe 2 inches below or 3 inches below the sleeve separation. So I will just knit a little bit further. But I think it should be fine. And I mean, I do want it to fit over the shoulders, and if it's too big, it's just going to pull off my shoulders. So I think it should be okay. I remeasured my gauge and everything is measuring up pretty well. So yeah, that's where we are. I'm really, really enjoying this project. In terms of modifications, if you've seen the pattern, you may have noticed I am doing the sleeves in stockinette. So the pattern has you knit this sort of texture stitch both on the body and the sleeves. So there's basically no stockinette in the entire cardigan. But I decided to do the sleeves in stockinette, which a couple of other people have done as well, which means that later I will be knitting these sleeves in the round, and they will just be a little bit faster, and also it just adds another element of texture to this pattern, and I really like this combination of these 3 different stitches. So that's where we are. I'm really excited about this project. I think I'm going to wear this a ton, and in the beginning I was worried about the yarn because it's well, how do I say it? It's not a flat yarn. It has a lot of different colors within this natural color. I think it's about a 2-ply, so it doesn't have the best stitch definition again for the cables, but I think it works really well. And it looks almost a little bit marred because there are just these different tones of gray in the yarn. And yeah, I love it. I love it so much. Just looking at it makes me really happy. There's another cable on the back in case you haven't seen the pattern. So this is what it looks like from the back. And I think it's going to be a very, very wearable, and depending on how you wear it and what you pair it with, even possibly like an elegant piece. I think you could dress this up probably quite nicely. Or of course, which is what I'll probably do, I could dress it down with just a pair of jeans and a comfortable shirt and just wear it everywhere I go. And yeah, very excited obviously about this. And I'm also dropping stitches. Wow. I should really put this onto a bigger needle, shouldn't I? But that's where I am with that. I'm pretty happy with my progress on this as well. I just started using my second skein out of 4 skeins, so I think it should be fine. In terms of the length, the original pattern isn't super long, and I would like this to be a bit of a longer cardigan if I can squeeze it out, but I will just see how I go with my yarn, and I can always at some point just put the body on hold, knit the sleeves, and then just knit the body as long as I can with the yarn that I have left over. So that is that. Next up, let's talk about some Stephen West projects. I have so many projects to talk to you guys about today. I'm so sorry. And I feel like at the same time I'm kind of sidetracked, so who knows how this podcast will turn out. And yes, I have been using my Christmas bag again. This was apparently a Christmas bag last year because it has gold, but I think you can use like jingly Christmas bags all year round. In here I have my eyeball shawl by Stephen West. I talked about this at length last week, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it is the eyeball by Stephen West, and I'm knitting it out of this yarn, which is Pickles Merino Tweed. The colorways are on my project page, and essentially I have finished the, oh my gosh, am I ever going to learn the eye terminology before filming a podcast? Apparently not. I finished the big round thing in the middle, which I think is the iris. I finished also now the first white part, which I think is called the sclera. Is that right? So I finished this white half and have now started knitting the second white half, in lack of better words. So this is where I am with that. It's just a lot of garter stitch with some increases. It's pretty fun, but it's also a lot of knitting. Like, only when I put this on a bigger cable, I realized that just like this one white part is essentially like a huge triangular shawl by itself. And now I need to do that all over again for the other side. But once I'm done with that, I just have a million stitch brioche border to go, and then this thing will be done. Theoretically, I would like to have this finished before the beginning of the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along, which starts on, I think, the 4th of October. I'm not sure if that'll happen, but I do want to make as much progress on this before it starts anyways, and then I will just finish all these shawls one day. So that's where I am with that. I am using 3.5 millimeter needles, I think. And this shawl is going to be massive, which is really funny because my friend Marion, she made me knit this essentially. And I love hers, and hers seems pretty small. But I have a feeling that this is going to be huge. So I'm not sure if that's due to the yarn or due to our different gauges, but I think this is going to be a pretty big schlanket. So yeah, that's where I am with that project. And that should really be it, except it isn't. And I think now I'm just going to talk about my next WIP and a book at the same time, because it kind of makes sense. So, you may know that ever since meeting Stephen West at Oslo, I've been on a bit of a Stephen West kick, and I'm really starting to see the fascination. I mean, I've knit some of his patterns in the past, but I never really got the hype. But I'm starting to get it now, you guys. So right after Oslo, they launched a pre-order for his new book. And I went and ordered it straight away. And again, I'm just talking about this because I like it. I'm not sponsored. I'm not paid for this. I didn't get anything for free. But I got myself the new book, which is his new West Knits Best Knits #3. And it was really funny because I just saw the notification of, I think, Stephen and Penelope. And you could even get autographed versions for the same price. So just for the fun of it, I got this book. It arrived on Thursday night. And yesterday after work, which was Friday, I started reading this book. And you guys, I am so inspired. I'm usually not a big person who buys knitting books. I mean, I love books, I love patterns, but knitting books, I tend to not read them, to be honest. So, like all the pretty magazines and books and publications, I tend to kind of not get them, or instead get the ebook version, because I just tend to knit from like digital patterns and you know. But for this book, I decided to just get it because the ebook is pretty much just as expensive, and I was just really interested. And first of all, I didn't expect such a massive book. And in here, it's just like Stephen explains a lot of his thought behind his shawls and his shawl evolution, and it was just so freaking inspiring, this book. I don't know, but I read this for about an hour and I was just like so inspired, and I just wanted to desperately knit something. I didn't really care what I knit. I just wanted to knit something because, yeah, I don't know. He just got me. So I'm very, very happy about this, and also just the photography in this book is amazing. My book arrived kind of mangled, I will say, but I don't care. But everything about this is just amazing. So I personally really, really love it. And this, I think, has 6 new designs and 7 of his old ones, which is great because there are plenty of Stephen's old designs, which I just never bought the pattern for. So, yeah. So, essentially, after reading through the book, I just felt compelled to just find some yarn from my stash and knit something. Didn't really know what I wanted, but I knew I wanted to knit something. So I started just rummaging through my tons of leftover skeins and half skeins of things, and kind of came up with a color palette, which I can't show you very well, but it kind of ranges from like light cream colored tweedy yarn to a lot of like purpley mauve yarns to then darker yarns and grays and browns. And I put some mohair in for good measure because that's what Stephen would do. And then I was like, what am I going to make? You know me, I'm usually all about the rustic yarns and about knitting very precisely and not mixing bases. And I decided to just channel my inner Stephen. So first I cast on a pattern which I then didn't really like the way it was knit, because you had to, I think it was the Chevron Shenanigans, which is a beautiful pattern. I'm going to knit it one day, but there was a lot of thinking involved, and really I just wanted to play with color and not think too much. So then I decided to just very, very randomly cast on the Mound Maniac shawl, which I think was one of his mystery patterns. Possibly last year, possibly the year before, I'm not sure. A pattern that I've never really been interested to knit, but I just saw it and I just saw my yarn and wanted to play. So I just cast it on. So yes, I'm a bit focused on Stephen West at the moment. But yeah, so this is where we are. I did all of this last night. And because you're always holding yarn double, it goes pretty fast. I mean, it's still going to be a lot of knitting, but for me, who generally only ever knits shawls in fingering weight held single, it's going pretty fast and it's really, really fun. So for this shawl, I'm really trying to like turn off my brain and just knit and just put whatever colors feel right at that time together. And I really liked Stephen West's comment regarding, you know, you just pick colors and the shawl will just reflect the kind of mood that you're in when you're knitting it, and that's definitely true. So yeah, that's where I am. I'm just happily marling colors, and all these ends I think are going to be turned into some fancy braid later on, so that's really fun. And yeah, that's where we are. So right now I'm still on the first section of the shawl, so it's this mesh section, and I can't wait to finish this and then I think he started joining in other pieces and other sections and different textures, and I think it's going to be really, really fun. I'm already really enjoying this color combination. I think it's just really fun to not plan for once and just kind of grab whatever feels right at the time and use up all these leftovers. So far, with the exception of the mohair, all I'm using is leftover skeins, which are just languishing in stash. So yeah, who would have thought? I mean, the colors obviously are very, very me. No one can be surprised by that. But yeah, apparently I'm joining very late into the Stephen West party, but I'm falling very hard at the moment. We'll see how it goes. Also, suddenly I have 3 shawls on my needles. I mean, that's crazy. And I'm about to cast on a 4th one with the mystery knit along. So yeah. Remember like 2 weeks ago when I said I'm not a shawl knitter? Oh, well, that's where we are with that. I think you're supposed to use I don't know. I went down 1 needle size, that's all I know. So I am using 4.5 millimeter needles, and I think you're supposed to use a 5 millimeter needle. But I already knew that this is going to be a huge blanket shawl, and I also tend to knit on a loose gauge, and also I don't like big needles. So for all of those reasons, I decided to go down 1 needle size, and I think it will be absolutely fine. So yeah, that is that, and those are my works in progress, with the exception of my lacy Kyler shawl, which I'm not showing you this week because it just kind of looks the same no matter if you add like 2 inches or not. So yeah, that is my knitting. That's all I've been working on and thinking about, and I've already shown you the book. So I will just very quickly show you some spinning that I've been doing. So I'm spinning up this pretty colored braid. How cool are those colors? I really like them. This is some fiber from Sabrina of Das Mondschaf. It's her BFL and mohair base. So you may remember that green handspun triangular shawl that I knit a couple of weeks ago. That was knit out of the same fiber base, I should say. And I spun that into a pretty fine 2-ply, and I'm doing the same for this. So this is half of the singles. This is 50 grams already done. It looks like a lot less, but that's just because the Ashford bobbins are just huge. So I am about halfway through spinning the second half of the fiber, and then I'm just going to 2-ply it together, and it's going to be a crazy Barber Polly high twist yarn. I'm trying to put more twist in than I did with my green one because that was nice and very drapey, but in some points I wished I had put more twist in it, so we will see how that goes. I haven't been spinning a huge amount lately. I'm not really sure. I think I fixed my break band issue. So if you don't know, I didn't really like the break band on my Ashford eSpinner 3 because it kept on breaking, and more importantly, it kept on just changing, and before it breaks, it just starts being rough. And then, I mean, the break band is supposed to, you know, control the tension and all of that, and for me, I felt like every time I spun, it kind of changed, and the break band was just not very, very continuous, or the tension just wasn't very even, I should probably say. So I went with a tip that I got from a fellow spinner, and I'm really grateful for her. She told me to buy a fly fishing line, so like the actual fishing line that you use for fly fishing, and use that instead. And I got myself some neon yellow fly fishing line a couple of months back, and it works like a charm. I feel like my wheel is a tiny bit louder, but not annoyingly so, and I'm definitely enjoying spinning a lot more now, and it hasn't broken, and it doesn't seem to be breaking the wheel or messing with the bobbins or anything. So that's definitely helped. I'm still, I don't know what it is. I'm not 100% happy with my spinning situation at the moment. I like my ME spinner, okay. I like my wheel, okay, but both of them are just not giving me joy right now. I'm not really sure what it is. I think maybe I just need to spin some other things as well. Maybe I just need to mix it up a little bit. I'm kind of undecided about it right now. I'm not saying I don't like the e-spinner, but yeah, I'm just not really able to pinpoint what my issue is at the moment. But I think I solved the brake band thing, so that's definitely a start. And yeah, I'm not worried about my lack of spinning. I will just go back to it and have a more intense spinning time at some point in the future for sure. And right now, if it takes me a month or two to spin a braid of fiber, I don't really care either. So yeah. All right, you guys, my voice is definitely going, so I should probably wrap this up. There's nothing really super interesting in life in general to report, except that it's been a really, really long week. Next week, I'm only working 3 days, and then we'll be going away. So I'm very looking forward to that. We'll just be relaxing near the Alps, and I would be doing a ton of knitting. And yeah, I'm really excited for that, and I really need it too. I need to catch up on some sleep and just relax and be outside, and maybe we can go hiking or something if the weather works out. So I'm hoping for that. That means that most likely I will not be recording a podcast episode next week unless we come back early, which we might. I'm just not making any promises. If I'm not back next weekend, the following weekend, if you're in the Munich area, there is the Wollfest Vaterstetten. So it's a yearling festival in Vaterstetten, which is just outside of Munich. So I will be attending that. I'm not sure which day yet. I'm leaning towards Saturday, but I need to speak to my friend Marion. If you are there and you see me, please, as usual, say hi if you want to. Don't worry about being awkward, because I will be the more awkward one. So I will be back after that, and possibly I will have some yarn to show, who knows. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I should probably tell you what I'm wearing, because I always forget to do that, and my work phone is going off. Sorry about that if you can hear that. I am wearing the Strange Brew sweater by Tin Can Knits. It's my third rendition, so I've made 3 different versions, and this one is knit out of a Derrirum Natura in their Ulysse base, I believe. Whichever base of theirs is the thinner one. They have 2 like woolen spongy non-superwash bases, and I use the thinner one, which I think is about a sport weight. So yeah, that is that. Besides that, I'm just going to let you go. I really hope that you enjoyed this podcast. I'm sorry, I feel like I didn't have so much energy today, and possibly it showed, but I will be back, hopefully recharged, with lots of sleep and lots of coffee, and with a ton more knitting to show you in 2 weeks. So until then, thank you so much for watching. I will see you very soon. Happy knitting. Bye!